Do you want to? Never mind, thank you. Okay. We'll call the meeting to order. Mr. Hammond, you want to call the roll?
Mark Pellegrino, Anderson, Robert Hankinson,
Yes.
Jennifer Plavin,
Present.
Bob Schwartz, Mark Hawk.
Present.
Present. Also, I see Steve Rockwood, Tim Alex, and Matt Dunn, and Alan Minkus are here. And Brenda Smith, our administrative assistant. We do have a quorum, Mr. Chairman.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hammond. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I guess we'll dispense with that. We'll approve the minutes of the October 5th, 2022 meeting.
Move.
Motion made
Seconded.
by Mr. Hankinson, seconded by Attorney Plavin. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
We have to take a
Aye.
roll
Oh,
call.
we're gonna take a roll call vote. Roll call vote,
Bob.
Dr. Hammond.
Bob Hankinson,
Yes.
Jen Plavin,
Yes.
Mark Hawk.
Yes.
Yes, it's a vote, Mr. Chairman.
All right, we'll move right into the bills and orders. Mr.
Okay,
Hammond.
so I've got to make sure we get some corrections here. The invoices that were presented were correct. However, I read some wrong numbers, but the invoices that were sent had these numbers. And I just want to correct the record that on the 19th, Jones Winston's bill was $112,844.00. I had a wrong number in there. The last three digits was wrong. And Bacon was 1,537,576.97. Just for the record to have that corrected, but the note that the invoices that were sent, we had the correct numbers. The second thing is that we have is WB Mason, just to make sure that they were sent out. One of them got sent and one did not. The one that did get sent, which was sent out, which was the last, it's 2698 for $2,982. And then there was one that I did not, that apparently my system didn't send, was for invoice number 3230 in the amount of $4,935. And attached to that was a second invoice, last four digits, 3260, $18,865. You did receive those in the other day, so you do have those were received by you. So I request that those numbers be voted by the committee for those things, for the corrections on the Joan Winsett and then the three WB Masons.
All right, any questions on that? If not, we'll be looking for a motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Attorney Plavin, seconded by Mr. Hankinson. Any further discussion on the motion? There are none, put the matter to the vote. All those in favor, Mr. Hammond, please call the roll.
Robert Hankinson,
Yes.
Jennifer Plavin.
Yes.
Jennifer? Yes, Mark Hawk.
Yes.
Okay, next we have, Mr. Chairman, invoices that were sent. We have one for Sterling. And a couple of these I'm going to have to ask one approval once we've verified them, but we've been getting phone calls on payment. So we will not send out until they get verified, but we need to have approval. And Tim, I don't know if you want to comment, but on Sterling Corporation, that was sent to you for $24,135.68.
That's been approved,
Then-
Steve.
Okay, that's been approved, so we're all set with that one. And the next one is for FM generator, $360.61. This was the fire department's generator that we used up at the school, and there had to be some servicing part. So there's a check will be written, I guess, to the city to pay for it. I'm not sure exactly. We write it as a generator or whatever. I'll clear that, which way we have to go with it. I think we're going to pay it direct. But
But Steve, I also approved that and sent that off to you.
okay, so so those both have been approved. So we could have a motion on those two bills. Appreciate it.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Mr. Hankinson, seconded by Mrs. Plavin. Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Mr. Hammond, please call the roll.
Robert Hankinson,
Yes.
Jennifer Plavin,
yes,
Mark Hawk.
Yes.
It's a vote, Mr. Chairman. The next thing that I sent out to you, that we had sent a series of invoices that were paid to School Furnishings, Red Thread, Winger, and WB Mason, another one. And they were partial payments. And now we would like to have those approved. We will double verify them, but we're getting kind of, we need to have, once we know, we'll put them on and pay them, but we need to get approval. Tim, I don't know if you have any comments on those, or just at this point, we need the committee, we're getting really late on these to pay them.
Well, they're not actually late. They're just invoicing everything up front, even if they haven't delivered all the material. So we don't pay for things that we haven't received or things that are damaged and need to get replaced. So that's what those are for. And that's recommendations from Steffora Associates. They're our FF&E consultant. So they're the ones who provided those recommendations on how much to pay. But I did get your summary of what's been, what people are asking for, what was short paid, if you will, and for them to review and see if any of those are appropriate to be paid.
How do we want to leave it? Do you want to leave it to the next meeting, or do you?
Yeah, I would leave it to the next meeting. You know, this is
Okay.
just them, you know, someone in accounting seeing a number, not zero, and asking for a check, but
Okay.
there's a reason they didn't get paid, and we don't want to pay them until the work is done.
Well, I'm not saying pay, but at least get approval, but we'll wait till the next meeting. That's fine with me. I know.
Yeah,
Eileen is getting phone calls down at the central office looking for the payment, so trying to make sure. The last one we have was sent out, I sent to you, and I don't know if you can, I have, my picture is up, I'm down in the Cape, so I don't want to lose it. About a half a ream of paper from
Paulette, the book
thank you.
people.
Yeah, for bookkeeper, two invoices, 517965 for 108,276.55. And invoice 517965F for 16,567.24. I received word from Eileen that the academic, who's your academic director?
Kathy Gogan.
What?
Kathy Gogan.
Kathy Gogan has said approved that the books have been received, so we could pay that now.
Okay,
So,
so Steve, I did send you the first one, the 517965.
Yeah.
So I sent that with the propay number so that that's tracked through our financials. Although I did not see the 517965F, unless
it
it's in
was-
that packet and I just missed
it's
it in
the-
120 pages.
It's in more than 120. It's in
Oh,
that packet.
198 pages.
Yeah, it's in that packet, Tim, so it is there. So she
Yeah,
added it up.
Okay, that's a book in and of itself.
I know. So I want to get reimbursed for my ream of paper. I have a ream of paper. But I think the books have been received, so we could pay that one.
Yep.
We're gonna hold the others, but that one could be paid. Kathy said they've received it, so Eileen has got information on that. So I'd recommend that those two be authorized by the committee.
All right. Committee? Bob, Jen.
move to approve,
All right, motion to approve by Mrs. Plavin, seconded by Mr. Hankinson. Any further discussion on the motion?
Yes, if I could, please.
Yes, sir.
I hate to address the elephant in the room, but there's always one of those invoices that grabs your attention, and I have to say 198 pages does it for me. Was it a budgeted item? It seems like I can understand furniture. I can understand, fitting the new building, but it would seem like books would be something that would come over from the other two elementary schools. So fill me in on why we need over $100,000 worth of books.
We had discussed this a long time ago now. The two libraries were never, I don't know, we'll say up to par. One of them didn't even have the barcoding system. So the decision was made that we were going to, Follett has a recommendation, of course, of how many books you have. So it's sort of like, how many engineers do you need? If you ask an engineer, well, you need a lot, but they had a recommendation, I forget what it was, a halfway decent school will have 15 books per child, a good school will have 20, and a great one will have 25. No idea what they base any of those numbers on. And we decided to go on the lower end. I think we ended up getting, it was something like 12 or 15 per child, because the books that were usable from Elm Street and Waterford, we brought over. So all the books from Follett, they shelve them and then they put them in according to the Dewey Decimal System and that stuff that librarians do. And then all the books that we brought over from Waterford and Elm Street were going in those. Tim, Christian, help me with the names of those things on the end of the halls, the open media room area things.
Yeah, satellite media rooms.
Satellite media rooms. Then someone brought up the concern of, well, if they're not tracked or watched, what if someone steals them? And we said, well, success. They stole a book. So that's why we didn't get a full library of new books. Some of them were good enough to bring over, and we had to buy a lot of new books, which are not inexpensive. But
Thank
that
you.
was discussed months and months and months ago.
At my advanced age, the memory is less than 100%. Thank
It wasn't that long ago when you were twice my age. Now I'm really catching up fast here. So, any further discussion on the motion? There are none. Dr. Hammond, would you call the roll?
Bob Hankinson,
Yes,
Jen Flavin,
Yes.
Mark Hawk.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all we have for invoices to be cut this meeting.
All right. So that must bring us down to the reports from the OPM.
Okay, let me just share my screen. That's actually one of the Follett invoices, but what I wanted to show was this guy. So this is our budget. And as we've looked at this before, just wanted to highlight, how much we've spent, which would be the bottom of column B, invoices that have been either submitted and approved against our budget. And then what we think is eligible, which would be the bottom of column F for reimbursement from the MSBA. And then based on that reimbursement rate, what we think we're getting. And there's, again, always a lag in this, and that by the time the invoice goes through the processes and gets paid and then into the MSBA's ProPay system, there's a delay. But in summary, we had a budget originally of just under 90 million. We have spent now about $70.5 million of that, 70.5 million, 70.6 million. Roughly 50.5 million is we would consider eligible, or we estimate would be considered eligible by the MSBA for reimbursement. And based on the city's reimbursement rate, we're anticipating roughly $40.5 million in reimbursement on that 70.5 that's been spent. So it's tracking where we would have expected. We're still showing that we have another 6 million or so left in contracted items. So there's still a couple months of payments that we'll be submitting for the contractor. A lot of that is tied up in their retainage. We basically, all along throughout construction, we've been paying 95% of what they're asking for, and we're holding 5% all along the way. And now that we're able to start closing things out, some trades are completed, we're starting to reduce that retainage amount, but that's makes up a lot of what's currently shown as unpaid. It's not that the work wasn't done, it's just that we hold funds until we make sure that the punch list is completed and things are being wrapped up appropriately, getting owner's manuals, warranties, that sort of thing. So overall, the project, we're doing well. We still have funds in contingency to cover any new things that come up. we'll be talking about some things tonight. But we're in good shape financially. Any questions on any of the finances in the project? Okay, the one item that we do want to process and talk about is to officially change the date, the contract date that Bacon was required to finish and complete the project. Essentially, they completed it, well, not the first day of school, but the day before the first day of school. Just so that we can track all the paperwork, the MSBA is asking if we can process a $0 change order with the contractor so that we can submit that paperwork and officially change that date. So we've drawn that up, or we'll be drawing that up, and we'll be looking for approval to do that. Really, what that ties into is the city foregoing any liquidated damages against the contractor that the city may have wanted to try and enforce. But then on the contractor side, it prevents them from looking for additional general conditions because they had to have people and equipment on site for a longer period of time. Really, for the liquidated damages, you have to be able to justify that it's actually a damage and not just a penalty for being late. And on the contractor side, they'd have to justify their days and why their schedule was extended. So to avoid all of that, by issuing this change order, it'll officially change the date in the contract. Does that make sense? Anybody have any questions on how that works?
Is that something we should wait for the full committee, Tim? You're just asking to do this, if you go to the full committee, I would think to change that, not just the subcommittee.
Yeah, we can bring that up with the full committee. It's a $0 change, is what we're proposing. We can bring it up. We can wait for the full committee.
Yeah, I'd feel a little more comfortable in that particular thing for the full committee.
Kim, is the contractor involved in that discussion, or is it just our side?
No, we did. We mentioned it to them and they submitted a proposal based on that. So essentially, we're allowing them to have 59 additional days to complete their work, which would have brought them up to September 11th, I guess, or right in that neighborhood. Essentially saying that we're not looking to try and assess liquidated damages. But we're not looking, we don't expect you to be submitting any additional general conditions. Along the way, they've tried to say that certain changes.
I'm in the middle of a call.
Yeah, so that certain
I
changes
know.
required an extension of the contract time. And they didn't necessarily justify all those throughout the course, but
I didn't think you were going to be.
it'd be a long battle back and forth.
And just one thing, Tim, if I can mention, I don't think you used the word, but it's substantial completion right now and not the project is complete.
That's true. Yeah, substantially complete essentially is that you can use the building for its intended purpose. For instance, the gym still not completed, some play areas not completed, other things, along the way. But substantial completion was supposed to have been achieved on July 15th. And then we anticipated, is that they get final completion within a short period of time thereafter. So we're, as much as they fell behind on schedule on some things and had trouble getting things to an end, they have kept up the urgency to complete certain things. So the punch list is coming along pretty well. The design team is going to go back in the back punch and make sure that things got completed. But it's always important to try and get that stuff done quickly while the contractors are still thinking about this job, still remember parts of this job and haven't kind of mentally moved on to other things. So in addition to that, there's all the owner closeout materials, the as-built drawings, the owner's manuals, the warranty books, and all those things, or a lot of those things, have been submitted. There's a lot of submittals on Christian's plate right now to review and go through. So they have done a pretty good job on getting those things done. We still have some work to go on, and Matt could talk a little bit about it, but the main areas are the gymnasium. We're looking to get the coordinate between the sprinkler contractor, the fire department, the building official, the electrician, a lot of people to make that happen, because it's all tied into the fire alarm system and what the work we need to do in there. And so hopefully that'll be happening within the next week.
And before you jump off on that sort of update, do you want this committee to make a recommendation to approve that $0 change order for the whole committee?
Yeah, if they feel that that's appropriate, this is the subcommittee that can offer that recommendation.
Yeah.
Sure.
So I think what it does is it basically closes the door on both sides so that we don't go after them, they don't come after us. And then no one will even remember that change order that they gave us, because they had to dig an extra, 12 inches for the elevator shaft, and they gave us a change order for a couple $100. All that is washed away in water under the bridge that won't be brought up again. So if it's the committee's pleasure, we can take a motion to make the recommendation that we pass the change order with the new substantial completion date.
I make that motion, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Hankinson.
Mark,
Ms.
before
Flavin?
you move forward on that, I mentioned to you, we talked about the athletic field that where we had the thing. Is that going to be part of this? You had talked about concern that they've been parked cars up there and a mess of that, about them, certain responsibilities they have there.
That'll come up under the construction and owner's contingency. Right now, we're just voting on the change order for the substantial completion date.
Okay, thank you.
And I'm pretty sure Mrs. Plavin seconded that motion, correct? Jen. Well, I know she seconded that motion. Mr. Hammond, would you please call the roll?
Yes.
Bob Hankinson, Jen
Again, yes.
Plavin, Jen
Yeah.
Plavin,
Yes.
and Mark Hawk.
Yes. All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
it's
Tim, you
a
want to
vote.
continue?
Sure,
Thank you.
just on the field and any kind of restoration, because they've been storing materials there and it may get roughed up. They're required to restore that on their way out, so to speak. So we have, like I mentioned, there's a lot of retainage being held. There's a lot of retainage being held against Bacon for their general conditions. And so we'll hold as much as we can to make sure that all those types of things get addressed, prior to the closing out the project.
And Tim, speaking of senses of urgency in the gymnasium, do we have a full court press on getting something done there? Because not having that gym nor the outdoor play areas is really a pain.
I tried to make that point today at the job meeting.
He made it pretty clearly, and we've made it previously too, Mark,
But so what I suggested is really this week or next week, get it done. We have, you guys are off on the 11th. There's just the, it's where contractors could be doing it without having to work overtime, nighttime to do this. Cause like I said, it ties into the electric and the fire alarm and the flow switches for the fire suppression system, and the fire department might want to be there. The building official might want to be there. So I didn't get a commitment from them, but I tried to get them to take care of that within the next week.
Okay, thank you. Anything else, Tim, as far as the OPMs go?
No, just that the punch list is moving along. We're moving along on the playground area. We did have one issue that came up where there was a piece of equipment that was going to be moved over from Elm Street, but when they started taking it apart, they realized that there was a lot of cracking in the metal, and so it wasn't something that we could reuse. So that's not going to be reinstalled. That's the kind of dome structure.
Yep. All right, moving on to reports from the architects. Christian.
Sure, I think we can be relatively brief today, but can folks see my screen there, change order 21?
No, we don't see it yet. Tim, you got to stop sharing.
All right. How's that?
Yep, it's there.
Great. So this was emailed out by Dr. Hemmon, and this was already approved by the last school building committee. I think I took 1 or 2 off that we're still discussing with Bacon, but the rest of these were approved. And again, with the big negative for the daylight redirecting film, the total for change order 21 comes out to negative $7,206. I don't think I'll go through these since we've been through them a few times, but any questions on that, on change order 21? Okay, and the only new ones, there are a few, and so don't take this as like good news that all the
Thank you.
PCOs have gone away, but there's quite a few that we're still discussing with Bacon. They still have them on their list. You know, they go through them every week. So all of the previous PCOs that we've rejected, they still have on their list, and they like to remind us that they're still there. So at some point towards the end of the project, we'll come to a final reckoning on all of those. But just the 2 kind of new PCOs to cover today. 1, 388 is what Tim already discussed, to officially change the date of substantial completion to September 12th. And so that's great to bring that recommendation forward. And then 372 was just the temporary work on stair number 5 requested by the district to add guards so that children would be deterred from climbing up on the platforms. We have a more permanent solution that we've drawn up that I'm sure we'll get pricing on in the future. This was just for the temporary work that Bacon did right when school was opening. And that's it.
All right, we need a vote on that.
I guess if we could get a vote on 372 to include in change order 22, that would be great, just to start that process.
So Bob and Jen, this was them putting up some plywood and 2x4s and sort of cordoning off the whole stairwell 5 area due to some safety concerns.
I can move to approve that.
Motion made by Mr. Hankinson, seconded by Mrs. Plavin. Any discussion on the motion? Dr. Hemmond, will you please call the roll? Dr. Hemmond.
I lost my mouse. Can you hear me? They had to move me. I'm downstairs here and they moved me. They're setting the room up. Bob Hankinson,
Yes, please.
Jennifer Flavin. Jennifer. Mark Hawk.
Yes.
2 out of the 3, we have a vote. Did you vote on, did I miss it or not? Did we vote on change order 21?
Yes.
Okay. All right, the minus $7,206. Okay, fine.
Yep.
All right, I'm all set.
All right, Christian, and any updates? Anything else?
No, I'm all set. That's pretty much it.
Any old business? Any new business? Any other business? Old, new, and other. Any public comment?
I don't have any comment this week. Thank you.
The only comment is no comment. Next meeting, December 7th, 2022. We're in line for adjournment. Motion made by Ms. Believin, seconded by Mr. Hankinson. All in favor? And it
Anybody can
carries.
say aye. We're okay. You don't have to take a roll call on that one.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I'll see you next time.
All right,
Thank
good
you,
night.
everybody.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.